Hey friend, happy Wednesday. So good to see you. Thanks for taking time to come and hang out and grab a cup of coffee or caffeine or wine of your choice with me and with us. If you are new here, welcome. I like to think we're a pretty fun bunch. If you are live with us, you'll see that the chat is kind of a place to be. That is where you are also going to get a lot of tips and tricks and goodness because, man, Jim and Jeff and Giacomo and Aaron and Shelby, they are also going to be sharing what works for them, things that they've seen. So you're not just going to get helpful info from me and Sharon today. There's going to be a lot more people at this party, which is pretty exciting. Now you can sit back, relax, and let all that knowledge wash over you. And that's cool. We like that. But we also like if you lean forward and you get those fingers to type in and you share what you have seen or what you are experiencing too. Because, around these parts, like sharing is caring. We don't want Liz and David just keeping all the goodness to themselves. You know what I mean? We want them to share. So hopefully you're feeling the same. If you are listening to this on your favorite podcast network, while you wash the dishes or walk the dog or fold the laundry, never fear. You also can just save your questions in your mind when you're done folding or when you're done walking or when you're done washing. You can message me or Sharon or us, and we will also help to answer your question. I don't want you to feel like you are missing out on all of the fun. I am so excited that Sharon is able to join us today because she is someone whose courses I have really enjoyed listening to and watching on the LinkedIn Learning platform because they are all about empathy and communication. Something that if you know me and you kind of know the soapbox that I feel like I've been on the past couple of weeks with all of these news stories about AI and the newest version of ChatGPT and all this stuff, sometimes it feels like we're taking the human out of things. We're taking the human out of the writing. We're taking the human out of the comments and the posts, and just everything is becoming this, like, I don't know, I call it like AI slop that just, I don't know, it doesn't seem inspired. It doesn't have like the heart and the feelings in it. So I've been sort of going extra deep on empathy and on communication and on how to convey our feelings, how to absorb other people's feelings, all that sort of stuff. And if you're anything like me, you know that we sort of deep dive and nerd out. We nerd out on all this stuff. So if you are excited to nerd out on this with me and Sharon, then you're in the right place, my friend. You are amongst friends here like Liz and Abdur and James and Amanda. You're in good company. So never fear. So from wherever you are in the world, please help me welcome Sharon to our coffee chat.
Hi, Kim, and hi, all of the people. I'm so happy to be here.
Oh, thank you for making the time. We really appreciate it.
Of course, of course.
Well, as I said in my opening, I have totally just kind of gone down the rabbit hole on this subject. And obviously you also have kind of gone down the rabbit hole on this subject of empathy and communications. And I'm just curious, like, out of all the jobs that you could have picked when you were a little kid, like, did you kind of know from like age 8 that you're like, this is it? Or is this something that just like you kind of found yourself getting launched into?
Okay. So when I was 8, I was so overwhelmed with fear of just talking to people that I could not have imagined that I would have come to a place in my life where my entire career was just communicating on stages and on courses. And so, yeah, this was a thing that, like I just kind of fell into. So I am a person who stutters, and I had come to this point where I was just so overwhelmed with the idea of having to talk to people, and it was really beginning to just impact my life. And so This was about 11 or 12 years ago. I began to pursue public speaking, but it wasn't a career path. It was just like a thing I was doing as a way to sort of overcome this fear I had of talking. And so I thought, okay, cool. I'm going to give 1 or 2 talks and I'll be cured. I'll never be afraid to speak again. And that was obviously all lies. Hold on a second. If you hear my dog, he's going crazy, obviously, as soon as we go live. So he's in the background just being a dog. So really sorry about that if he's a little noisy. And so I gave a couple of talks on just communication, on being patient, and of course on stuttering. And that quickly just turned into talking about, how to be just a little bit more empathetic, right? Because when you think about actionable empathy, you are talking about things like pursuing perspective and being just a little bit more patient, and also talking to people in a way that is going to really fuel connection and really growing your world. And so in a way, I feel like my entire experience just as like a stutterer, it did kind of lead me here, but it was a thing that I really just fell into over the course of my life.
Well, and I feel like it's one of those things, I feel like communication and obviously empathy is also just one of those things that I have found that you kind of need to constantly revisit, or at least it's something that I'm kind of constantly revisiting. So, similar where your story was like, I thought if I did it 3 times, I'd be cured and we would move on,
Yeah.
Exactly. Whether it's communicating or, to your point, kind of active listening or active empathy, I feel like that's just, it's really powerful. And I'm curious, for anybody who's joining us that might be saying to themselves, empathy is something that I want to work on, or maybe active listening is something that I want to work on as part of an empathy practice. What are some tips or kind of easy starts that don't feel like, oh my gosh, I have to do this really hard task straight from the start?
So a thing that I always tell people is that the first thing that you have to do in order to be just a little bit more empathetic is to just have a little bit more patience. I think that we are, currently in a world that is overwhelming in a lot of different ways, right? We are constantly being inundated with content from all kinds of different sources, and we are encouraged to just continue to just go really fast constantly. And so I tell people hey, look, in order to really connect with other people and to get perspective, you really do have to practice being incredibly patient. And so how does patience look, right? It's physically stopping. It's giving all of your attention to the person who is directly in front of you. It's asking follow-up questions, right? It's really in intentionally listening to the other person. And so, like the first thing that I would say to people is to just be incredibly patient.
I think patience, and also, kind of what you touched on, the world is set up where we're always, the dings, the bings of LinkedIn
Yeah.
and Instagram and, all of these, things on our devices that are causing us to, constantly be like squirrel, squirrel. So the way that I found that's helpful for me is I've tried to really practice. I was very naughty for a long time about leaving my phone on the table, like when I would meet friends at a restaurant or in a meeting, because I would take notes on my phone, in a client setting. And now I've just learned, like, I have to put the phone away, because even if I'm typing notes, like I'm talking with you and I'm writing down notes, if one of these bings come in, my little caveman brain is like, well, what's happening in Slack? Like, I'm in this meeting, but then something's happening in Slack. And then I go to Slack. And then, to your point, I'm taken out of the kind of communication and active listening that I'm doing. How do you battle that AI and that gamification of these social media apps that are, I don't know, everywhere?
Okay, yeah. So, we are currently in a time like we are like kind of going through another revolution, right? Like with this, like dawn of AI available to every single person who has access to a device. How we approach just everyday conversations, everyday tasks is completely different now, right? We like have access to so much more information even quicker than when we could just like go on like a search engine and type it in. And so, a thing that I keep hearing constantly is that a lot of people are just like incredibly concerned. Here's my dog Washington. He wanted to say hi. A lot of people are incredibly concerned, like that as a result of like this tech, we as people are going to become obsolete. And I would argue like that, we as people, because of AI, are going to be even more important, as these softwares continue to evolve. And so, like our ability to pursue perspective, our humanity, our capacity, like for empathy is a thing that isn't ever going to be taken away by any technology, any software. And so, I'm constantly telling people of like, yeah, like it's okay to, like use AI as a way to sort of, like get facts and get additional information. However, a lot of the times I think that, we should be focusing on, how can we use these technologies to, form better connections with other people, in addition to, using them to just expand our knowledge base.
Totally. I mean, I'm curious, Scott's point here about screen time limits. and he says that I have stricter screen time limits on my own phone than I do on my kids' phones. And I'm curious, obviously, you work with a lot of teams and groups and individuals. Have you yourself kind of set any limits on your own tech use or your own app usage?
No.
Yeah.
I am
Yeah.
constantly on, I would say, all of the apps. And I think that a part of the reason why is just like, one, I think like I do just get like a little bit bored, right? And so I'm just like, well, like I don't want to watch TV, or I don't want to read a book, or I don't want to go, like do some sort of work or something. And so like I'll go on a lot of these social apps, and I feel that as a result of just being a little bit older, right, and being like on Facebook, right, like since 2004, I have a much better sort of capacity of seeing like, okay, I've been on these apps way too much, and I need to like actually like go out into the world and like talk to people, or like I need to read a book or something. But I do like have some concerns about how we are like constantly connected to like every single person out there, yet we don't really invest a lot of time into really like connecting with other people, and like trying to have like conversations with like another person. So
no, I feel like that's really important, and kind of pivots really nicely into Giacomo's question here, which is, obviously AI is not going anywhere. These communication platforms aren't going anywhere. Like you said yourself, Facebook's been around for, we don't want to age ourselves, but quite some time now, for those of us that have been there since the beginning.
Yeah.
How can we, especially during communicating with clients or people at work or vendors, how can you keep that sort of human touch and really speak in your own voice? And at the same time, maybe play with some of these AI features, whether that's ChatGPT or Claude. I guess, like, how do you strike the balance in there?
Yeah, you know what? I come from a perspective of being almost annoyingly optimistic, and that like there is always a way to sort of use all of the things that you have in your current arsenal, right? Like your strengths, your weaknesses, the things that you are really interested in, the things that you like don't care for as much, as a way to like be a little bit better at like those things that you are attempting to really improve at, right? And so I think that a lot of these technologies, especially AI, are going to, if we allow them to be, incredibly helpful when it comes to building like real world relationships faster. And I would also like put a lot of these social platforms in there as well. I have been spending a lot more time on TikTok. I find it to be an incredibly interesting platform. But a thing that like I really appreciate about it is that it has really like exposed me to a lot of different concepts and a lot of different ideas that I wouldn't have ever even considered. And I get to really hear about them from people who are so invested and who are so researched and just so intelligent. And so a lot of the time, right, like I'll see a video and I'll be like, oh, wow, I think like that's an incredibly cool topic. And then like I'll go over to AI and be like, I want to know other things about this. And then, you know, like that has been a way that I've been able to have like just a lot more interesting real life conversations with all the people like in my life, right? Like even clients. And so, you know, call me a Pollyanna, like, but I think that, you know, we have to stop thinking about how all of these things are like so terrible and that they're like taking a lot of things away. And we have to start viewing it from the perspective of, you know, how can we use all of these things as a way to really improve our like real, actual one-on-one lives with the other people that we are, you know, like talking to in person.
Totally. And I feel like that, well, one, that in-person part is key. I feel like a lot of times I'm always sort of on my soapbox that, you know, social media is not so social when you're like laying on the couch by yourself as like a keyboard warrior.
Very true. Very
Social means you are like in contact with other humans.
Like this.
And as someone who works from home, I know I have a rule with myself that sometimes, like, if I get really busy, I'll find like, okay, Monday, I, you know, woke up, sat at my computer, banged on my keys all day, went out for a walk, went to sleep. Tuesday, woke up, banged on my keys all day, took a walk, went to sleep. And if I get to like Wednesday, I have like a 48-hour rule where even if I go to the grocery store and get like, I don't know, one onion and then walk out, I'm like, we now have to see other humans that are not married to us or related to us. We must experience other humans. Like, I just think that that sort of stuff is so important. And likewise, I'm glad that Jeff brought this up, because not only do I think it's about experiencing other humans, but to your point earlier, humans that are different than us. So different ages, like my husband laughs at me all the time, but I really try every time we get together with my nephew. He's 11. He's in sixth grade. He just went into sixth grade. I try to sit with him for like 30 minutes just to like, I don't know, I pick his brain about like school and, oh, you're learning on these tablets now. Like, oh, you're learning on the iPad. How do you do it? Because I also just feel like talking to people that are different ages, not just saying like, oh, it's some 11-year-old, like get your soccer ball and scram until dinner's ready. You know, like really kind of talking with people is important. So where does empathy play a part in, I don't know, that sort of intergenerational conversation? Because that also comes up in work. You know, you talk to somebody who's the assistant, who's maybe in their 20s, and maybe you talk to somebody who's a vice president who's 65, you know, and all the sort of life experiences that happen in between those ages.
Yeah, for sure. You know what? It's so easy, right? To say like, oh, well, you know, like this person is only 25 or, you know, 22. So like, or 15, you know, or 11, right? Why would I, you know, have a conversation that, you know, is, you know, going to be intentionally consequential with a person who I feel like, you know, could, you know, be like on an entirely different, you know, level than me in a really bad way. And I think that, you know, as we, you know, like do get older, a lot of us, like hold on to that whole, like, well, like I have like life experience and I've been through this and I've been through that. And you young kids don't know anything about that. And my counter is that, I'm 41, right? I know how it feels to be 25. However, I don't know how it feels to be 25 in 2025. I have no idea how it feels to live in a world where your entire life you had access to all of this information. You also like had to constantly deal with, hearing what people think about you and having everybody else see that on the internet for your entire life, right? And so, you can get perspective from every single person in this world who has a voice and who can share it, right? And so, I'm constantly reminding a lot of my friends who are, like around my age of like, yeah, we know how it feels to be 12. We know how it feels to be, 5. We know how it feels to be 20. We know how it feels to be 30. But we have no idea how it feels to like have that experience when we live in a world that is how it is right now in August of 2025.
Totally. And I think Fazan makes a good point here also about really that's where the magic happens, is when you're working in those groups, when you are collaborating with other people that are all across the spectrum. You work on the sales teams, but the marketing person is 25, or you work on the sales team and the marketing person is 65 and has been there for 30 years and has so much institutional knowledge. For anybody who's listening who is working on a team, maybe it's their boss and a couple other people or a larger team, what kind of advice do you give people that are trying to improve their communication, trying to improve their empathy, but they are working in these larger groups that have a lot of personalities and a lot of different people with opinions?
Yeah, a thing that I've heard over and over again for the past 10 years is that so many people just like embrace this like idea that they are like not good at communicating. And like it's such a common thing of like, oh yeah, well, like I would love to do, like presentations, or like I would love to go for like a bigger role, like, but I'm not an effective communicator. And I always am like, well, hold on a second. Like, if you speak or if you write or if you are like around other people and like you are having conversations, you are very effectively communicating, right? And so a thing that, I would love to really just like impart on people is that, we all have some sort of like discomfort around our ability to really communicate effectively, right? Some of us, it's a physical like discomfort, right? Like you have a speech impediment, or you just feel physically uncomfortable like around like other groups of people, especially at work. For a lot of us, like it really is like just like a confidence thing. And so like a thing that I just learned in my own experience is that, like my career improved so much when I just decided to really put myself out there, right? And so like if you are like in these big groups of people, it's especially at work, and you are attempting to, like be a better communicator, and to be a better collaborator, and to be more empathetic. I would say that the first thing that you can do, and the easiest thing that you can do, is to give other people a platform to share about themselves. When we are talking about empathy, we are talking about perspective. And so the only way that you are, going to get perspective on what another person is thinking, feeling, or experiencing is if you are asking them questions about, what they are going through. And so like in your next conversation, or in your next one-on-one, or like in your next like team stand up, give another person an opportunity to just share a thing that they are doing, or they are experiencing. And that alone is going to have you feeling a lot more confident as a result of allowing another person to feel like they are valuable and important.
Yeah, I love that idea of really giving other people a stage and other people a platform to share their thoughts, share their feelings, share their opinions. And one thing that I really like, it struck me when I watched your course. You had this quote and you said it like 2 or 3 times throughout the course. And every time you said it, I was just like, that really like it hits. And you said, I'm sorry if I butcher this, but it's something like, it was a quote, and it was, you have to remember that what people are saying to you is not their opinion. It's your interpretation of their opinion, or it's like your thoughts about their opinion.
Yeah.
And it really hit home for me because I started to notice that I was doing it a lot. And even on like really silly things, like when my husband would say, I feel like tacos tonight, in my head, I'd be like, well, he's just saying that because he knows that I want, Chinese food or something. Like it was totally warped with I was kind of putting my thoughts onto like their communication to me. Mm-hmm. And that was so powerful. It was such a, like, it really stuck with me. And I'm just curious, like, is that something that you have found that a lot of people also have a hard time with, or it could just be me?
No, I mean, I think that we all do it, right? We, in our world, in our, own like corner, we are absolutely, the expert on something, right? And so whether it be, like our opinions, our perspective, we know that we, have a lot of very solid and, like very experienced knowledge on a lot of different things. And so it's very easy to, hear another person saying a thing and being like, okay, well, I hear you, but I also know my own experience, and that doesn't align with what who, is an expert, actually believe. So like, I'm going to come back and say, no, like that's not true. And so a thing that I really love and appreciate about, just being actively empathetic is that it really does force you to also, control how you think and to question, your own assumptions. When I began as a public speaker, I had this like whole idea of like, okay, well, like I'm going to have to get on stage and like, it's going to be all about me and like, I'm going to talk and then I'm going to go home and then I'm not going to have to deal with people. And that is so far beyond like what, what my like actual career looks like, right? I think that a lot of us, we don't realize how impacted we are by everybody else's experiences, yet we like allow our own experience to sort of override theirs. And so, we all have a problem with this, but, we, just have to like use that quote unquote problem as sort of fuel to, constantly question, why we are thinking the way that we are, where these assumptions are coming from, and, how we can sort of reframe, our sort of gut feelings to like be just like a little bit more open and a little bit more, just willing to, have a conversation in a way that we are not accustomed to having a conversation. I don't know if any of that made sense, but
well, it's really
as I was going through it, I was like, wait a minute, I don't know if this is coming out right, but yes.
Yeah. Well, it's centering, the other person's experience, the other person's thoughts and feelings. And I feel like it ties actually really nicely into this question that Giacomo had, which is, let's say you're in a leadership position at work, you're the CEO, you're the team lead, you're the sales manager. And, I don't want to say you have a boot on your neck, but there's results that you have to hit, your KPIs, Q3, your sales team has to be at $1 million or, but at the same time, you want to be empathetic. You want to make people on your team or those who are below you feel seen and important. But at the same time, you kind of have to like drive the results. How do you find the balance or what are some tactics to, you kind of have to be a hard boss because you got to hit those goals because maybe your salary or your company's salary, and revenue depend on it. But you also want to be seen as empathetic. Can those two things live in the same person? Or is it just like, okay, if you're going to be hard, you got to be hard and then you can't be a softie type of thing?
Yeah, 100%. Right. Here's where we sort of have to like break things down into, you are going to have to approach every situation from a little bit of a different person, right? Yes, you are very high up, right? Even if you are like the CEO, they, also have a person, or in a lot of cases, a ton of people that, they have to respond to. And so, like they can see like the full picture in a way that like a lot of the people who are reporting to them like just can't. Right. And so a thing that I always like to tell like my CEOs and like my higher level executives is that, some amount of transparency is going to be your friend. If there is no transparency, then there is no empathy, right? And so you have to find how much, you can comfortably share and how much your team can comfortably handle in order to, continue to, have the, kind of authority that is going to continue to really inspire people to, give you everything like that they have. But also to say, hey, here is what my world is, and these are the things that I have to get, completed. Here are the things that, we need to do really well in order for all of us, including me, to, succeed, right? And, like that kind of brings me to my other point is that, a lot of these bosses need to really understand the ROI of being empathetic, because, it has been proven time and time and time again that you can't be like a bad boss and have a good team, right? You can't, be cruel to people and then expect your team to do anything else but, use those same kind of tactics, right? Like that same approach in order to, get their job done, right? We talk a lot about culture carriers. Well, I want to talk about culture creators, right? Because the culture creators, are the people who are like at the top. Culture creators are going to influence all of the culture carriers. So if you on the top are going to approach situations where you are, going to be completely stoic, you aren't going to sort of give people any sort of context, and then you are going to encourage quote unquote bad behavior, your culture carriers are going to give that to the entire company, right? So, you need to be very careful how you, as the culture creator, are speaking to and treating your culture carriers. So yeah, if you are, a high-powered exec, it's going to come down to, you have to have some level of transparency, and you have to understand, what your specific ROI of empathy is in your situation.
I totally 100% agree on the transparency, whether it's people above you, below you, like Jeff's saying, or just like the culture that you kind of have going on, to Craig's point. But I just want to give people this visual when it comes to transparency, because I think it's really helpful sometimes to visualize it. Everybody has seen the movie, and it happens in every movie, by the way, every Marvel movie, every action movie, the same scene always happens. And that is there's one person that is running at top speed down a street, just like sweating, going crazy. And there's a group of people that just stop what they're doing and watch the person, and they don't move. And if anything, they kind of look at that person like, why are they running and screaming down the street? And then all of a sudden it's like Godzilla, right? Like you see Godzilla, and then everybody starts going, ah! And then they all join like that one guy who's, screaming and running for his life. And that happens in every like Marvel movie or whatnot as well. And I think it's so important because sometimes when you're the leader, it can feel like you're that one person, and that your company's, bonus or your company's revenue or your team's bonus for the end of the year depends like on these Q3 results, but you're running, and then everyone on the team is looking at you going, oh man, Sharon seems sweaty today, or Sharon seems stressed, or is sending out a lot of like 2 a.m. emails. Like, what a freak. And it's not until you kind of get transparent and say, by the way, Godzilla in the form of our bonuses is like running after us, that then everyone on the team goes, oh, shnikes, we all better start running at the same speed that Twitter is running, because all of our bonuses, rely on this. And so I think just that part of transparency, some leaders feel like, oh, I'm shielding my team from it because, I don't want them to feel the panic, or I don't want them to feel kind of the boot on their neck. And I totally think you're right. I actually think a really strong part of leadership is, being the Wizard of Oz, but coming out from behind the curtain and saying, this is why I'm so stressed, or this is why I'm really hounding you guys in our weekly meetings. And I think that type of transparency also really brings you and your team closer, because then it's kind of hey, we're all in this boat. We all have to, be rowing in the same direction. And I'm curious for you, like, when it comes to kind of transparency and learning and feeling like you're trying new techniques with that, who are some creators or some authors or some podcast hosts that you listen to really kind of get new ideas from, or new techniques when it comes to communication or empathy, or both?
So, I am and I already know how this is going to sound, right? I'm not a big fan of hearing what other people are talking about in my own personal space, only because I feel like I'm so involved in it, right? No, it's not because I think I know everything. It's not it, right? Like, I'm constantly learning about, new things and, just like different concepts and like different approaches to, how can we be more comfortable and more confident communicators? How can we be more empathetic? But the kind of creators that I really love listening to are those that don't always talk about those kinds of topics. I feel like when I get just like a totally different perspective on a somewhat like side topic, like that is, communication or empathy adjacent, I feel like it makes just from, the sort of perspective of like, how can I create better content for, courses and for books and all of that stuff. You need to have the perspective of people who are like doing very similar things, like, but not doing the exact things, in order to really expand your brain, right? All of that to say, I really love Emily Anhaltz. She's a fellow LinkedIn course creator. She's a doctor as well, like a psychologist, a clinical psychologist. And she like talks a lot about how like our brains and our feelings are like impacting every aspect of our lives, especially work. And she like had a video, I think it was like probably like last month sometimes, and she was like, hey guys, I just want to remind you that like we're all gonna die. So like, you should probably, reconsider how you are like approaching this like really big and scary problem that you are like avoiding, and, think about it in terms of like, we're all gonna die. So like, it's okay to just like confront things, right? Like, it's okay to come at things like from like a place of like, you know what, things are hard and like this is scary, like, but life is temporary. So like, just go out there and just really, tackle things in a, just more confident or even like a more casual way. Right. And so like, it's that kind of content like that I'm always like trying to find to just like help me to continue to really engage in like real empathy.
1,000%. No, I feel like that type of stuff is really important for all of us to be doing. And speaking of to be doing, we love homework around these parts. So we're big fans of homework assignments and really kind of pushing our own boundaries a little bit more. So I'm curious if you could give all of us a homework assignment to do over the next couple of days. It could be to read something. It could be to download something. It could be to try something. It could be to listen to something that you feel like would really help us kickstart, leading with empathy and just improving our overall communication skills. What is a good homework assignment that you would give to all of us?
So we talked about how, we should be sort of questioning like our assumptions. And so a thing that I do every day, like I come to, or like I'm like in a conversation and I have this sort of like reaction that is like almost a second nature of like, oh, well, like that's just wrong, right? And every time that happens, I'm always like, well, wait a second. Why is that wrong? Like, why are they wrong? And why am I right? You know what I'm saying? So I would always implore people, right? When you are in a conversation, especially at work, right? I want you to like have like one or two conversations where you know that 1000% you were right. And then I want you to say, wait a minute, why am I right? And why are they wrong? Right? And then if you want to take it a step further, it's why do I think I'm right? And why do I think that they are wrong? And then it's, where did that assumption come from? Right? Like what is like the first time or like the like experience that I had where I learned that this is the like only way to do something. So I would implore people to do that. And then another thing that I would say is like a good thing to do is really invest some time in talking to or like I guess reading or watching courses from like sales experts. I learned so much about communication and about connection and about relationship building from those people who are like really, really, really good at sales. I know it comes off very smarmy, like, but if these are good salespeople, they are going to teach you how to really like listen to others. And I think that is like always very good advice. A person who I can think of off the top of my head is a course instructor on here. His name is Dean Carroll. And he just has just some of the most insightful courses. He is so good at sales and he's so conversational and it's so like comfortable to like hear him talk about sales and like those sort of sales conversations always go back to like, how do you be a better communicator in a way to really connect with people in a sincere way that's going to help you build a long-term relationship?
No, we're big fans of Dean around these parts. So I second that. He is absolutely the best. So we will definitely take that as a very good homework assignment. Sharon, thank you so much for taking time to join us today and answer all of these amazing questions. Where can people keep learning from you and keep absorbing all of the things that you've been talking about today?
Yeah, of course. I am incredibly active right here on LinkedIn. I also have a live show. It's called Empathy in Automation, where I talk about how to be empathetic in this like age of tech. We were on a little bit of a hiatus this summer, but we will be back in the fall. And then I have another course that is going to come out any day now, where it's going to be about empathy and AI. So whenever that is available, I will definitely post about it. So that's where people can find me, is right here on LinkedIn.
I love it. Well, thank you everybody for joining us today. Thanks to Liz and Giacomo and Aaron and Jeff, and you guys have just been asking such great questions. I'm sorry we couldn't get to them all. We tried to get to as many as we could, but if you have more questions, if you are taking a walk later or in the shower and another one pops up that you're like, I wish Kim would have asked that, or I wish Sharon would have touched on that more, never fear. As Sharon said, we're both on LinkedIn, probably a little bit too much. So feel free to ask your question here underneath this event, or feel free to pop into any of our inboxes if anything bubbles up as the time goes by. But we know that you guys could be anywhere, be listening to anything, but the fact that you took time out of your day to be here with Sharon and I, we really appreciate it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We are here every single Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern. You can always add that calendar reminder to your schedule by going to getcoffeewithkim.com. And you can join us here every week, which I'm biased. I think it's pretty fun. So thanks so much for tuning in with us today, and we'll see you soon. Bye, guys.
Bye.